help you understand what you are going to cover for this. Okay, thank you. Welcome for the first class. Those who are doing the semester one, foundation courses business. So before we go into a class, I want to help you understand what you are going to cover for this semester, what is involving, and the course you expect to do within the semester. So those who are doing business courses, you have to do basically 6 courses in a semester. Now these 6 courses, we have number one what you call business law. Second, you do business management. Third, you do business economics. Also, you do business communication. Also, you do business finance. So these are your main catchment area. Apart from that, also in the second semester, we will introduce you to business mathematics, also business environment. So these are what you expect to do for the whole year. Now, according to the timetable, I think it's very clear. We have made some division whereby this March and half of April, we are going to cover business law, business management, economics, and business communication. These are what we're going to start with from now up to April. Thereafter, April, now you introduce you to business finance, uh, also math analysis, and business environment. So for now, those with modules, you have to check around your notes, you go through your notes as you just revise. And actually, we are going to revise the whole modules in 3 weeks. So that now you keep on revising through the audio, videos, and your notes. Thereafter now, we'll do physical class in May for residential. So for now, allow me now to take you in a business law. That is the course I'll be taking you for now. And my name is Patrick Muma. In case others first time to see me talking on this platform. So let's look at business law. What do you expect in this course? And what is all about these things? What is involving in business law? These are what you have to understand as the basics as a new student. So in the business law, the first thing we'll be looking at the laws that are found in business. You know, before they brought all these laws in business, we have been hearing like, suppose you're in business, maybe you invest in someone's business, you make a loss, maybe someone makes a loss. Should you lose all the money? Suppose you had a bricklayer, maybe to do building maybe your toilet or your house. If the house, should you make a loss as a person who had someone? Now, in those days when there was no law in business, it means you make a loss. But for now, these laws are there to make sure that when there's a business transaction, it is legal. In the case of one is being affected or maybe one incurs the loss, you can take that person to court so that they can either compensate you or they return back for what you invested in. That's the main essence why there's this business law. So as we go in, we are going to look at what are different laws that are there in business. What are these types of laws? Why are they there? What are their significance? And how do they help to build a business? So these are some of the course outline or the objectives that you need to understand when you talk about business law. Now, allow me now to introduce you to the word business, because there are two things here. There's business and there's law. So let's look at the word business itself. What is business? I'm sure we all do business. Everyone does business. It depends on which business you do. Even selling your phone, it's a business. Now, business simply means any legal transaction. We are talking about any legal transaction. When you say legal, simply means there's no scamming, there's no lying, there's no counterfeit. It's something clean, something legal, or anything that both parties who are in business, they have mutually agreed to say we can do this business. Remember, in business there are two people or there are two parties involved. There's either a buyer and a seller. So when these two parties, they agree to say, we are going to do this business in this way, and both are satisfied, whatever is happening there, I want to call business. But in the business world, they can also tell you to say business is any transaction or anything that you do with a view of making a profit. In our economic world, we redefine business as doing anything that can give you a profit. But in a nutshell, even when there's no money, there is business. As long as, suppose I have got a phone, someone has got maybe a bag of groundnuts. We say let's swap. I give you a phone, you give me groundnuts. Whatever is happening there, it's a business. We call it as barter system. As long as both parties they are satisfied to say what I've given him, what I return from him, or what I get from him, they are okay. That can be called business. But this word business, it came from a Latin word. And that Latin word simply means bene. Now, this word bene in Latin, it simply means number one, care. Number two, it means occupation. Number three, it also means anxiety. So, looking at its original word for the word business, this bene, the original word for business, where we got it, it simply means care, occupation, or anxiety. Simply mean when you are in business, both parties should be care of what product you are going to give or receive from the other party. Second, it's an occupation. Occupation simply means anything that someone does in life as a Bible. It could be business, maybe it's you are a teacher as a professional, that can be occupation. Maybe you're a farmer, it can be occupation. Now, why do they put this word bene in also occupation? It simply means either you are working, when over service they pay you, you are doing business. If you fail to over service, they won't pay you because there's no business. Now, under this occupation comes in. In other books, they will even define business as occupation, simply mean as a way of living. Whatever you do for your living, it's part of the business because it gives you something as part of your living. Also, the other word they said anxiety. This bene, it also means anxiety. Simply means where your business lies, that is also where your heart is. You know, if you invest in a business millions of money, you'll be always curious, anxiety, you'll be always anxious to know what is taking place there because that is part of your life, that's part of way of living. That is why even anxiety came in as the meaning of bene. And then, in short, you are saying business is any legal transaction between two parties with a view of making a profit. Anything that you mutually agree, it's business. And then the word law, law simply means principles, regulation that are put down in one document. Any principle, any laws, any regulation that you put in to guide you as well in business, those who call them as what? As law. And once you break a law, now there's been a lawsuit. You can be taken to court because you signed something that brings you together to say, we are going to follow this as we are running this business. So now, look at these two concepts. If we know the meaning of business, also the meaning of law, we can now safely say business laws, these are laws that are found in business and that helps to regulate the learning of the business. So having looking at the definition and the meaning of business, we can now look at it to say, what is the importance of this business law? Why it is important? That's what now we can look at. Since we have defined what is business, what is law, and we have defined business law, now let's look at its importance, its significance. Why do you think this business law are important? Can you imagine if there's a business where there's no law? You know, there are even some shops where they can say no return. What if you buy expired product and they are saying there's no return? How? Does it mean you lose your money? The answer is no. Because this law, they are there to protect two parties who are involved in business. So the first importance of business law, it helps for compensation. That's the first importance. It's compensation. Now, the word compensation simply means, in a typical law, we call it as a law of torting. I'll talk about this. The law of torting, it simply means how someone can be compensated in a case one makes a loss. What we give an example is, I'll give an example. If I hire a bricklayer to maybe to build like a one-bedroom house, and within a week that building collapses, should I make a loss of the money I bought cement and all the materials? The answer is no. In that situation now, the law itself in business will come in so that that bricklayer can compensate me for the loss that I incurred during that period. So the main importance is for compensation. So that those who are in business, there is no any loss. Again, when there's compensation, we look at two things. The first thing, we look at negligence. Was there any negligence when there was those transaction? Or it was intentional? So if it was intentional, that person who made you to make a loss should pay you in total. If it was negligence, they will look at how it was. For example, a bricklayer was not adding enough cement, maybe he sold some cement, or he was not adding enough cement, and the house collapses. They will say it's negligence. But at what extent was that negligence? So when you look at the negligence, they will say, okay, for this negligence, maybe you're going to pay half of this cost, so that even the other party does not lose everything. But if it was intentional, maybe you give someone cement, now they're using sand, and they sell all the cement. That now be the intentional, it was intent. In that situation, one can now compensate in fully with interest of wasting your time, the pain costs, and not following what you had first. So that's the first importance of business law. The second importance of business law is about business formation. When you talk about business formation, you're talking about if you want to form a business. Where do you start from? What do you do? Where do you go? Because some business requires some paperwork, some license. So when you talk about business formation, we simply mean through business law, it will guide you to say when you're opening a business, the first thing the law says you have to go to PACA, like in Zambia. You have to go for a name search from PACA. From there, from PACA, you go to ZLIA. Some maybe you go to civic center, maybe you go to health, maybe you go to fire, so that you can also be protect the building. Maybe you go for insurance, maybe you go to other licensing body. So all these regulations, they are there as a law to help you that when you're opening a business, it is well protected. Because you can open it, for example, open a business, maybe it's a chemist, maybe it's a hospital, which is not your licensed. They might say your operation is illegal because you have not followed the law, which should be handled in business. So through business law, it will help you to understand the regulation, the formalities, or the guidelines that you have to follow when you are opening the business. And the third one is a safeguard and protection of shareholders. There are some business that requires shareholders, partners. Now, shareholder is simply mean maybe you invest in someone's business and then you are sharing the profit. But through business law, it helps you to understand how to share profit. Profit simply, we mean it dividends in the business language. So how to share dividends? How much is the percentage? In a case of the company want to make a loss, does it mean you should also make a loss? Does it mean you have lost your money? So through all this business, it will protect and safeguard your investment so that if anything, your money cannot be get lost. So this is some of the importance that we see in business law. Now, for now, allow me to introduce you now to some types of business law. I said since there are business laws, there are many. So for today, we're going to discuss about the first type of business law that we have. And that first type of business law will look at the law of contract. That's our first law we'll look at. Now, let's talk about what is contract. Because we don't talk about a law of contract without understanding what is contract itself, what is involving, how to create a contract, how one contract can be called a valid or not valid contract, We'll look at all these things. Now, to start with, a contract is any legal document that binds two parties that are involved in business. I'm saying any legal document that binds. So what to bind two people now is the laws, the condition of service that have been enshrined in the contract. So if suppose I'm looking for a job, I'm being employed. For example, I'm the worker of ZipTech. Before I started working here, they gave me something to say, oh, Mr. Muma, here's your contract. You'll be following this, and if you do this, we'll be paying you this. So meaning that contract, it binds me to do what the owner of the company is asking me to do. Also, the owner of the company should pay me as agreed after I offer the service. So anything, any contract agreement should be written, not just oral. Because if you produce oral contract where there was no signatory, nowhere was written, in that case, you may fail to protect yourself in a case of the court law, because the court may demand evidence. But if it is written the signatory, that is the enough evidence to prove that these people, they were legally in agreement for the certain services. So now this contract, since we are saying any legal document, we are saying any legal, even one-page paper can be a contract, as long as there are conditions and services that both parties are supposed to follow when they are executing that business. Now let's look at what makes a contract. What really makes a contract? So the first thing, there are first four main elements that makes a contract. In short, I'm looking at the elements of contract. What should be the must in the contract? What should be found as a must in the contract? So in the contract, the first thing you're going to find five important elements. The first element, there's what we call an offer. I'll talk about these things. The second part of element is what we call acceptance. The third part of element is what we call consideration. The fourth one, there's also what we call mutual agreement. And the final one, there's gazette. Now allow me to go through all these elements so that you understand them better. You understand when you say what is an offer, you are able to know what is an offer and what is involved in an offer. So what is an offer? So in short, or in a layman's language, or in the simple language, I will explain an offer in a very simple term. So an offer is anything that an employer. Now, who is an employer? An employer is a person who is willing to hire someone or who is willing to employ you. Now, suppose someone said, I'm looking for a garden man, and then the salary is 10,000. So what is an offer there? An offer there is 10,000. Now, that offer can be either an advert in a newspaper, or it can be an oral agreement to say, when you do this, I'm going to do this. So now, that offer, when you feel like the offer is okay, you can go for it, you like it. The next step that we're going to do now, there's what we call now acceptance. That's now where we go to the second element. Acceptance now is a willingness. When you are willing now to accept an offer, you say, okay, being a garden man, getting 5,000 is okay for me, so I'm willing to accept this offer. Remember, an offer is prepared by an employer who is the owner of the company, or the one who is looking for someone or a worker. And then a person who accepts an offer now is an employee. Now a person who will be hired to do a certain task. So now when there's an offer, maybe it's an hard debate to say looking for an employer, someone who can do this. Now when you accept that an offer, an acceptance comes in when you apply. You put it legal to say, I'm applying for a job that I saw in an advertisement. Meaning you have shown a willingness to accept an offer which was being advertised either on the TV, the newspaper, or elsewhere. So when you show that acceptance, now the other thing now that also come in, apart from that now, there's what we call consideration. So what is consideration? When you talk about consideration, that is now when you as an employee and an employer, you sit down to say, okay, this is an offer, I like it, I think these rules are okay. Now, can't you think of adding maybe lunch allowance, transport allowance, housing allowance, when you are trying to negotiate so that they can make some changes in that offer or in that contract? At that stage of negotiation, I want to go now consideration. An employer who is now your boss will try to consider to say, is this person competent enough to do the task? Is this person matured enough to handle this issue? Now, on that period, we call it as a what? Consideration. And the other part now that comes in after consideration is what we call now mutual obligation. Mutual obligation now, these are the things that two parties supposed to do. For example, me as an employee from ZipTech, I know that one of my obligation is to teach. I'm teaching here. I'm obliging to the condition of an employer who is a ZipTech. So after I teach, after today's part 2, after I teach, what do I expect from the company? Is really for them to oblige by paying me my salary. That's what you call now mutual obligation. When both parties, they oblige to the condition that is being enshrined or being put on the contract. So those are what we call mutual obligation. And finally, also is what we call competence and capacity. When you talk about capacity and competence, we are looking at now in the case like, can Muma teach? Is it competent enough to teach? If they think like I'm not really delivering the way they expect me to teach, they look at it as he has a capacity to teach. If he doesn't have a capacity, the owner of the company will try to find a way on how they can help me out. So we talk about competence and capacity. That is when now they're looking at you. Okay, here, okay, Muma is a control. Okay, that's with the maybe a diploma, degree, master. He is able to communicate well. Yes, he is. Can he do this? Yes, he can. So in all those arrangements, they're trying to see if I'm competent and I have also a capacity to deliver or to oblige the condition that are in the contract. That's what we call competence and capacity. So in short, in a contract, it should have basically 5 elements. I talked about an offer, acceptance, consideration, mutual obligation, and competence and capacity. Now, having looking at all these things, finally now, allow me now to conclude on looking at some types of a contract. So I'll talk about 3 or 4, and I'm going to see what are these contracts, what is involving, and what is there. So the first one, type of contract, is what you call unilateral contract. I'm sure those with the modules, you are going to see these things, they are there, and you are going to follow them up. So what is unilateral contract? That's the first contract that we are going to look at, and it's there, I think, in your notes. Now, unilateral contract, that is a contract now that is just being offered by one-sided. Or in short, this contract, it is also called a one-sided contract. And why it is called one-sided contract? Maybe that could be your interest to know. For example, suppose I've got a dog or I've got a rat. Maybe my rat goes missing. And I advertise to say, okay, there's an offer. If anyone can find a white cat which was lost maybe last week, there's an offer of maybe 1,000 baht. It's only me who have offered anyone who can find that contract or who can find that cat or a cat in short. If someone can find my cat, automatically they are entitled to be given 1,000 because it was in an offer to say, whosoever finds my cat, I'll pay that person 1,000. So it's just one-sided, meaning there's only one person who is obliged to fulfill the promise. Anyone who can find a cat must be paid that 1,000. In a case whereby you find a cat and the owner who gave an offer fails to pay 1,000, you can even go to court because you have fulfilled an offer which was being advertised either in a newspaper or in a post or on the radio or anywhere. So now under this unilateral contract is called one-sided because there's just one person who has an obligation to fulfill uh, an offer which was being either advertised or put in any media. Away from the unilateral, let's look at the second type of a contract that we may also want to know. So the second one, there's also what you call bilateral. The word bi simply means two. So bilateral contract, it simply means both two parties, they have a lot to play. And both parties, they have got a mutual obligation. Both parties, when A do A, also B should do their part. It's like a condition. It's like you say, if you have money, can you buy my phone? When I produce money, they should also give me a phone. Or like here, what I'm doing, it's a bilateral contract. Simply mean when I teach, I should get paid. If I don't teach or if I don't work, I don't get paid. It's a bilateral, meaning the other side should do their part, even me have to do my part. That's what we call now bilateral type of contract. So under bilateral, in most cases, if one fails to deliver upon the condition which was being agreed in the contract, the other part also may not fulfill the other part that he or she is supposed to do, because this contract, it must be always meet the demand of the two parties involved. So in short, we are saying when two people who are involved in a contract have been obliged to certain conditions, it means they fall under what you call bilateral contract. And this bilateral contract, it has to be involved by two parties who has got the offer or the condition attached to fulfill. And if one fails, it means even the other person may not deliver or may not do what he or she was being agreed to do in a contract. And finally, the last one that I think that we need to look at is what we call void contract. What is a void contract? When talking about a void contract, we simply mean a contract which has got no legal binding. For example, maybe I'm a politician. Maybe I want to kill my opponent. So I pay someone to say, I'll pay you 10,000, go and kill that opponent of mine. Now, when that person gets a down payment and he or she fails to kill that person I want to be killed, I cannot claim for that down payment because that contract is already illegal. And if you go to court, you can't even go there because it's illegal. For example, corruption. If you pay me to say, Mama, I'll pay you 1,000. Can you give me 50% in this course? You even give me better 100 as a down payment. If I fail to give 50%, maybe you find it's 40%, and you claim for a return, and if I say no, you can't take me to court because that arrangement, it was illegal, it was corruption. So when you go in a contract whereby there is an illegality, something is not illegal, you cannot claim for anything because the court will say what we are doing is illegal. Hence, we cannot proceed for any compensation. That's what you call now void contract. And finally, we'll look at now the voidable contract. Now, voidable contract is a type of contract now where it's not valid, but it can be valid upon doing something. For example, there's an advert. They are saying we're looking for a worker who is above 18. Now, maybe I'm 17 years, 5 months. Maybe I do apply. Now, after they give me a contract, they realize to say actually Muma is below 18, 17 years, 5 months. Now, they will think of now because of age, that contract won't be valid at that point. They can wait for 5 months until I become 18. That's when that contract now become what? A valid contract. So voidable, that is when there's an element which may make a contract not become a valid one. I was talking about change. Away from that, there are some parts whereby we say, okay, since Muma is 17 years, 5 months, how can we make this contract become valid? Because for now it's voidable. Someone will propose to say, okay, we are going to do it express. These we call them as ratification. How can you ratify a contract which is not valid by that time, but don't make it valid? You can do it express. What is express? Okay, I'm 17 years, 5 months. They will say, let's ignore his age. 5 months we're going to wait, it's nearby. We are going to wait for 5 months. You'll be 18 very soon. So let's ignore about this part. Let him sign a contract. That's what you call ratification by express. You approve something, you ratify something, which is a condition someone never met, but you think you can just ignore it and then you proceed with the process. Away from that also, you can ratify that voidable contract by what we call implied ratification. Implied and ratification simply means you have to wait until I become 18. Or in short, that's when you try to follow all the procedures needed. So you wait to say, no matter what, we are going to wait until he becomes 18. That's what we call now implied, meaning you have tried to follow all the rules and regulations that is needed for that to become valid. So voidable it simply means it's a contract that can be valid upon meeting some condition. It can only be valid either by ratification or using express or using implied method. So in summary for today, we have looked at 3 aspects of this introduction. The first part, I need to explain what is business, what is law, what is business law. Apart from that, also we looked at the importance of business law and looked at the basic 3 types of 3 importance of business law. And then from there also we looked at the types of business law. And among the types of business law, we looked at contract law. That was the introduction. So that contract law, we also looked at some elements that have been found in a contract law, where we talked about an offer, an acceptance, mutual obligation, competence, and then from there also we looked at the types of contract. We looked at now the unilateral contract, bilateral contract, void contract, and voidable contract. So next time we'll finish up the remaining 3 types of contract, and then from there also we'll go to a second step under the contract. And once we finish contract, we'll go to the next step. So for now, it was an introduction. I hope you have enjoyed. If there's any question, you can still have a way to ask. We can still make some clearance so that before the next session, I can also answer some questions that you may have by now. So you can follow your notes so that you can also be clear. Where there's a pending queries, you can still call your text, you can still make all those clearance. For now, enjoy the study. Thank you. Okay, thank you.